BookTube, how are you doing? Today I'm going to be doing the school days book tag. I was tagged in this by Alicia Reads and Rambles, and yeah, she's got a great channel. I would heartily recommend you checking it out. It'll be linked down below, along with the creator of this tag, which is What Victoria Read. So both channels will be linked underneath. Yeah, please do check them out. But let's get into this. It's sort of split into two. Part A is about times of the day at school, and then the second one is kind of subjects. I think I've got a book for every prompt. Some prompts have multiple books, so it's maybe the most books I've ever had for a tag. So we'll see how it goes. So, first bell. Tell us about the first book that got you into reading. And for me it was Fellowship of the Ring. So the first part of Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I'd read other things before in school, sort of reading sort of picture books and books aimed for kids going up the various levels and so on, and you know, I read bits and bobs at home as well. This is the first book I can remember being really excited about reading. I can remember the first day I started reading it. I'd already finished The Hobbit, but that really paled in significance compared to how excited I was about this. And I was about 10 years old. I read the first 70 pages in a day, and I was really excited that I'd read 70 pages in one day, and the pace really went down from there. Yeah, this is the book that really got me into reading. As I've said before, then once I'd finished Lord of the Rings, I actually found it hard to read things that weren't Lord of the Rings. But yeah, absolutely loved this, and I haven't actually revisited it since reading it as a kid, so I'd love to revisit Lord of the Rings at some point. Alright, next up is break time. Which book, or what book, have you most recently decided to take a break from or DNF'd? And for me it's Airs Above the Ground by Mary Stewart. So I picked this up along with Hair with Amber Eyes by Edmund de Waal when I was doing the Reading Europe 2021 challenge that Mark from Book Time with Elvis had put together. And my first country I'd been allocated was Austria. So I wanted to find books that had something to do with Austria in them, and both of these have these sections of the book that are set in Vienna. So I got both of them, and I sat down on a park bench and read about 30 pages of each, and then decided to carry on with whichever one I preferred. Much preferred this, so I kept going with it. Not to say that this is bad in any case, I just wasn't really in the mood for it, and I might revisit it. My wife has literally just today picked it up and is reading it, so yeah, this is the last book I DNF'd, but I might get back to eventually. Okay, moving on. The next one is lunchtime. Tell us about your favourite book that features food. The only book I could really think of initially was Impossible Loves by Dario Jaramillo. It's the selected poems of a Colombian poet, and there's a really great standout poem in here about a mango. Okay, and then final bell. Which book have you most recently finished reading? Just before filming this, I read the last poem in Borges's selected poems. I would actually really recommend, if you have any of Borges's collected writings, collected poems, it's one of the last poems in here, or it's like a long prose poem called The Leaves of the Cypress, and I really enjoyed that. Okay, homework. What was the last non-fiction book that you read and enjoyed? For me that was Slouching Towards Bethlehem by Joan Didion. Yeah, it was mixed, not all the pieces I loved, but as a whole it was a really good reading experience, and she's a writer that knows what she's doing, and I felt really safe in her hands, and yeah, I'd like to read some more of Joan Didion at some point. Okay, and then staff room. Tell us about a book that you go to when you need to take a breath. And for me, these kind of books, they tend to be more kind of coffee table books. When I was a kid, I was a bit more comfortable in non-fiction. Actually, with the last prompt, I found it interesting that it kind of stipulates a non-fiction book that you enjoyed, that, you know, a non-fiction book is kind of homework, isn't as fun as fiction. For me, as a kid, I was much more interested in non-fiction. I don't have it to hand, but I have a book of What the Romans Did for Us. It goes along with a BBC TV programme from like the 2000s that I used to enjoy watching as a kid, and I had the book that went along with it, and I really loved that kind of thing. And any sort of coffee table, either non-fiction or just something to arouse my curiosity, really. So I picked up a few examples. The most sort of non-fiction out of all of them would be Peter Ackroyd's Ezra Pound and His World, which, unlike many of his autobiographies, is very sort of coffee table-ish. It's got, you know, quite a lot of illustrations and things in it. Let's see what else we have here. I've got Sylvia Platt's Drawings, so it's a book of Sylvia Platt's sketches, which I quite like. There's this great kids book called Dragonology, which is really strange but kind of fun and quite mysterious book about the study of dragons. There's The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse, which is a very relaxing book. I think that goes very well with this prompt. And reading this book is very much like taking a big breath in. There's lovely little illustrations and some very nice heartwarming quotes in there. And last but not least for this prompt, there's The Wanderer by Peter van der Ende. And yeah, I just love his approach to illustration. I might get more of his, I don't know what to call them, whether they're grown-up picture books or graphic novels, but I like his illustration style, and yeah, it still arouses my curiosity, so if I need to take a breath, but I still enjoy reading, so yeah. Moving on, part B, subjects. So the first subject is English. Tell us about a book you studied at school and recommend a book you'd like to add to the curriculum. And I can remember studying Macbeth. Ugh! Sorry, I have my collected Shakespeare here. I opened it up at Macbeth just for you. There you go. Yeah, I can remember studying Macbeth, and I can remember reading out, you know, the sort of first bit with the witches, all the Witt sisters, and doing it in a Scottish accent, and getting stuck in the Scottish accent, and just, you know, speaking to my friends in a Scottish accent for the rest of the day, as you do when you're reading Macbeth at school. But then a book to recommend to add to the curriculum. I was thinking of Herland by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. I think this would be a good book either for English Lit or for sociology or gender studies or anything like that. And yeah, I can't remember. I don't believe there's anything massively inappropriate for you know, young kids or early teenagers in here. I think it's all pretty normal, really. It's nothing. There's going to be nothing in here that they're not going to be learning in science or history already. So, but I think people have a laugh with this. I think yeah, kids in school would have a bit of a laugh with the scenario of this book. And then with maths, how do you rate a book? I'm not sure if I'm answering this properly. Generally, I read it first, and then if I like it, I give it a big number, and if I don't, I give it a little number. That's generally how I do it. Science. Which book couple do you think have the best chemistry? I would. Well, I just thought it's not really a thing I think of. The first book couple with a good chemistry I could think of was Astrophil and Stella. Again, I got my big Norton out for you, and this is by Sir Philip Sidney. It's a long sequence of poems from Astrophil to Stella. Astrophil means, I think, lover of the stars or the sky. Stella means star. So I think that's pretty good chemistry there. Geography. Describe a book that has a strong sense of place or great world building. For this, I went with the book I'm currently reading, Oscar and Lucinda by Peter Carey. I think the descriptions in here are really great. The sense of place, particularly in the first few chapters, with the coast of Devon and the cliffs and the beach and the sea. It's really wonderful. But yeah, just the world building of Victorian England and then Australia later on, I think is really wonderful. You can really smell the polish, and you can hear the floorboards and smell the tea and the Christmas pudding and the candles and everything. I think it's immersive, but I mean, it's got really short chapters, but the writing has a very immersive, very detailed feeling to it without taking up much space. And then for history, so which three historical fiction novels have you most enjoyed? And so I'm currently very much enjoying Oscar and Lucinda. See how it goes, but that's a historical fiction novel that I'm loving. Another brilliant, immersive, just sort of joyous book to read. Not necessarily in what happens, but in the experience for me was The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. And then, again, not a very joyous book, but a book that I found a wonderful experience. Again, a very big book, Sacred Hunger by Barry Unsworth, which is about a slave ship that goes rogue, and it's based on the Zong massacre, I believe, or at least takes some inspiration from that sort of period of the British slave trade. Okay. Moving on into religious studies, which book is the one that you always come back to? I don't really have an answer for this, really, mainly because I don't really have a book that I come back to. I often find myself coming back to certain poems, certain poets a lot. If maybe I'm not in the mood for going back to the main book or books I'm reading, I might just go back to some familiar poems and read them or read them out loud to myself. And so some of the poets I find myself coming back to the most, particularly in that kind of setting, are W.B. Yeats, Seamus Heaney, Sylvia Plath, Ted Hughes, and T.S. Eliot. Okay. And then PE, show us the biggest book on your TBR. With books I'm planning to get to this month, or at least start this month. It'll probably be Ezra Pound's Selected Poems and Translations. But for books on my bookshelf that I really want to get to at some point, probably one of the biggest would be The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt, not only in page but just in general heft and chunkiness. Okay, then music. Which book reading format do you think has the best rhythm for reading? I think it has less to do with the format. Really, it's really about the book itself for me. If I'm not interested in a book, I don't think the format will really change it for me. There have been audiobooks that I've listened to in the past that I want to keep listening to because of the story, and it's the same with reading a book, a physical book in my hand or reading on the Kindle. It really is the writing that keeps me hooked, keeps me coming back, and it sustains a good rhythm for me. Okie dokie. Drama. What book do you think has the best ending? One of my favourite endings in a book is actually the ending of The Beautiful and Damned by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I think Great Gatsby is a better book, and the climax is actually much better, but the ending I think kind of trails off in The Great Gatsby. He kind of reflects on things a bit. Whereas this, it just ends suddenly, unexpectedly, and kind of brutally, and I really love the ending, even if it's not as good a book in my opinion. So I missed the prompt about art books, or books with a, to show books with nice cover. The words are up there, you know what I mean. And so here are 3 of my favourite covers. There's Angela Carter's Book of Fairy Tales, which I think has a lovely cover. Nice spine. The back's not actually that good, but nice little frog. There's Underland by Robert Macfarlane, which I think is wonderful. The cover to this is from a painting by Stanley Donwood, who does the Radiohead album covers, which I also love. Band I love, my favourite band. And then there's this edition of The Moonstone, not The Moonstone, sorry, The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. I love this sort of kind of creepy, kind of cover. I love this edition, the way it kind of feels in my hands, but love the cover to this as well. There we go, let's move on. And then, last but not least, Modern Foreign Languages, which is to recommend a translated book that you enjoyed. And again, I'll just bring it up for good measure. The Invention of Morale by Adolfo Bioy Casares, which has been translated from the Spanish. It's a great little book, which is another reason why I keep recommending it, because it's strange, it's kind of profound, but also very short. So it won't take up too much time if it's not for you. But yeah, The Invention of Morale, great book in a modern foreign language. And there we have it, that is the school days tag. All that's left for me to do is to tag some people. So I'll tag 2 people. Number 1 will be David Wiley. I know you've already been tagged in this, I don't believe you've done it yet. So I'm going to go and tag you again. And then second up it will be Shelley Swearingen. I don't believe you've done this yet either. If you have, sorry. But yeah, you're tagged too. But there we have it, that is the school days tag. We are well and truly into the school year, so I thought I'd get it done before we were at Christmas. So yeah, there we have it. I hope you're having a great Tag Tuesday or week in general, and I'll see you soon. Bye.